Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to the channel. UFC Vegas 73, Mackenzie Dern versus Angela Hill just ended, and this is going to be my UFC post-fight, and I'm actually going to recap the entire card from start to finish. Because there's not that massive fight that I really want to go in-depth on for 10 or 15 minutes, I figured why not briefly discuss every single fight on this card. If this is something you want to see me do more of in the future, let me know down in the comments. Maybe I'll do this for more UFC fight cards in the future. Starting off with the very first fight on the card, Themba Gorimbo versus Takashi Sato. Themba Gorimbo wins via unanimous decision. Basically, the grappling was too much for Takashi Sato. We've seen him get out-grappled in the past. And Gorimbo came out and really put a pace on him, was landing big shots on the feet, was clinching up, was looking for takedowns, was getting him down, was beating him up, won all 3 rounds in my opinion. And I was wondering, as he's putting this pace on him, I was wondering, is he going to gas out? And he started to look pretty tired in the second round, but it's like almost like he got a second win. And he never really started to wane. So Sato just couldn't defend the takedowns. When he was trying to defend the takedowns, he was eating shots on the feet. You know, he had some moments in the clinch where he's landing some knees, but as the fight went on, he started to gas out, started to give up his backup against the fence, and really just had nothing to offer. The pace that Gorimbo was able to put on him, he just wasn't able to deal with it at all, got tired, got out-grappled, was eating big shots when they were on the feet, and really just had nothing to offer in this fight. And, you know, that might be the end of his UFC run, to be quite honest. But Gorimbo looked pretty impressive. You know, again, it's not against the best opponent in the world. But the fact that he was able to just keep pushing forward, keep looking for takedowns, keep getting the clinch, keep doing some dirty boxing, finding the takedowns, beating him up on the ground. He wins the fight, unanimous decision, 30-27. Moving up the card, Natália Silva versus Victoria Leonardo. We knew what was going to happen in this fight. And Natália Silva beat the brakes off of her first round TKO, was lighting her up on the feet, was landing nonstop head kicks, was throwing nonstop head kicks, was just busting her up with the hands, hurting her badly. Eventually, she clips her with a nasty head kick, hurts her bad. She starts to shell up against the fence. She had already been beaten so badly up until that point. It ended up being a stand-in TKO. The referee waves it off. Natália Silva is a very interesting prospect in the women's flyweight division. I can't wait to see where she goes. I thought, you know, she was going to dominate this fight. I thought she was going to destroy her, and she went out there and brutally finished her in the first round. She looked fast. She looked athletic. She looked powerful for the women's flyweight division. I can't wait to see where she goes next. And, you know, again, it's not against the greatest competition. That's what happens when you look at some of these early prelims. You know, you're not seeing the best versus the best, arguably, in some of the cases. But Natália Silva is a prospect to watch at 125 pounds. I can't wait. I think she's going to be a legitimate contender. I've been saying that for a while now, since I've seen her UFC debut. She just looks so good. She looks so well-rounded. She's got power, which is rare for the weight class. And she went out there and really put an absolute beating on Victoria Leonardo, landing head kicks, spamming head kicks, landed a nasty right hand at some point in the first round that hurt her. She was trying to survive. Leonardo was trying to survive, but Natália Silva just would not take her foot off the gas, and she finished her in the first round via TKO. And also, I meant to mention at the beginning of this video, I almost sweep this card with picks. I got one pick wrong on this entire card. We'll talk about which pick that was later in the video. But moving up on the card, Chase Hooper versus Nick Fiore. Chase Hooper moving up to lightweight. How was he going to look? Being honest, when I saw these guys walk out, and I'm seeing how slim Chase Hooper looks and how young Chase Hooper looks, I'm like, is he about to get bodied again like Steve Garcia did to him? But he didn't. He was pressing forward, landing combinations. You know, there was moments where he was caught off balance and, you know, ended up on the ground. I think at one point in the second round, Nick Fiore was in full mount. Chase Hooper so squirrely on the ground, ends up getting his legs up, reversing him, ending up on top. And this fight, I know people are going to talk about, oh, Chase Hooper striking looked really good because he hurt him badly in the first round, almost finished him in the first round. And then in the second round, pretty much dominated. Third round, pretty much dominated. I mean, there was some resistance, but not a whole lot. Like, he was just keeping Chase Hooper off of him, kind of, you know, getting takedowns and then getting reversed. And sometimes he would end up in the top position, but then all of a sudden Chase Hooper would use his long legs and somehow squirrel his way out of a position and end up on top. Chase Hooper striking is still so low level. I mean, he's like ducking into punches, and Nick Fiore couldn't make him pay for it. And don't get me wrong, Chase Hooper has improved, But when I look at that lightweight division, I just see him getting killed. Could you imagine? Guram Kutateladze is in the lightweight division. He's not even ranked in the top 15. He would literally catch a manslaughter charge against Chase Hooper. But at least he's improving. Apparently, he enjoys the weight cut to 155 much better than he enjoys cutting down to 145. I just don't think long-term it's going to be successful. The fight was fun. Chase Hooper, I thought he won all 3 rounds. He looked good in the grappling. He had very good reversals, had some good ground and pound. Landed a nasty elbow in the first round. He was throwing constant standing elbows, but still just so sloppy on the feet. But busted up Nick Fiore, almost finished him in the first round. Out-grappled him, outstruck him. Cardio was pretty good, and it was nonstop pressure from bell to bell for Chase Hooper. So it's a good win, don't get me wrong, and it showed off some of his skills, but he's going to have to evolve quite a bit if he even wants to be competitive with the top 20, top 25 in the lightweight division. Moving up the card, Rodrigo Nascimento versus Ilir Latifi. What a horrible fight. Split decision for Rodrigo Nascimento. I thought he won all 3 rounds. Outstruck Ilir Latifi the entire first round, beating him up against the fence, landing good shots. Wasn't really rocking him, but was just beating him up. Latifi was landing some hard leg kicks in the first round. Second round was beating him up, but not to the same amount of volume that he was doing in the first round. Then in the last minute of the second round, Latifi gets a takedown, controls him, doesn't do a whole lot of damage, lands some ground and pound. And then the commentary team, who's horrible, was acting like Latifi definitely won the second round. I think there's a case to be made. Maybe he took the second round, but I don't subscribe to that at all. I think Rodrigo Nascimento took the second round, and then the third round was more of the same. Latifi got like a borderline takedown up against the fence where it got him down to a knee. I don't think it would technically count as a takedown. But Nascimento got back up and continued to outstrike him. Latifi just getting old, looking slow, is really probably not at the proper weight class, and just basically got outstruck for 3 rounds and had 1 minute of success in the second round with the grappling, but didn't really do a whole lot with it. Moving up the card, Gilbert Urbina versus Orion Cosce. TKO, second round TKO win for Gilbert Urbina. And Urbina looked incredible in this fight. Was lighting Cosce up on the feet in the first round. Was taking him down, beating him up. I think at one point in the first round, he had him full mounted. Was almost finishing him with the last 15 seconds of the first round. Cosce survives, makes it to the second round, but apparently he had a rib injury. And I remember at the tail end of the first round, during some of the ground and pound, they were in a weird position, and there was almost like an elbow from Urbina to the body, and I'm wondering if that's what injured the rib cage of Orion. And then in the second round, Urbina just right back on him, landing combinations, landing teep kicks, eventually lands a couple kicks where you can see Cosce really like kind of cringe a little bit, throws another one, he kind of just sinks down, melts, referee waves it off. Gilbert Urbina with a second round TKO. Went out there, put a pace on him. Actually looked like a good fighter. I wasn't really expecting this type of performance from him. I picked him, but I wasn't expecting this type of performance. Went out there, got a solid TKO win. Looked good on the ground, looked good on the feet, looked fast, looked like he had improved since his last fight. And he went out there and got a dominant win. I mean, this was not competitive. And the second I saw Orion Cosce, he walked out like a robot. I'm like, okay, this guy's going to lose for sure. I'm confident in my pick. And he just looked robotic. He looked stiff in the cage. He looked out of his element. And Urbina just looked fast. He looked like he had improved vastly on the feet. Was mixing up his takedowns. Was landing on the feet, landing hard shots on the feet. He got clipped with a couple shots himself. But for the most part, this was a flawless performance. TKOs him in the second round. Moving up the card, Karolina Kowalkiewicz versus Vanessa Demopoulos. The commentary team act like this fight was competitive. This fight was not competitive. Karolina Kowalkiewicz dominated from bell to bell, 30-27. Vanessa Demopoulos was an absolute punching bag. She was getting beat up. She was throwing haymakers. She wasn't landing a whole lot, even though the commentary team, who heavily relies on fake stats to discuss fights because they can't actually add any context to the situation without looking at fake stats, we're acting like, oh, Vanessa Demopoulos is doing good. A lot of her shots, she was winging shots. Most of them were hitting air. Don't get me wrong. She was landing some shots, but she wasn't having any success. She looked like she did not belong in there at all with Karolina. Karolina, I'm surprised she didn't finish her. She was busting her up badly, landing kicks, landing combinations, not really taking any damage herself. Vanessa Demopoulos shot in on a couple takedowns, never really got close to any of them. and really just got dominated by Karolina in this fight. It was not super competitive at all. And a solid win. I mean, not against the best competition, but the performance itself from Karolina Kowalkiewicz, from where she was like a year and a half ago. I mean, she couldn't be in a better spot in the UFC. She kind of regained some of that, excitement, where she was a title contender at one point in time. But Vanessa Demopoulos looked horrible in this fight. The striking looked bad. The cardio was okay. It wasn't horrible. And Karolina's cardio and output was pretty impressive in this fight. So solid win, unanimous decision win for Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Moving up on the card, Viacheslav Borshchev versus Maheshate. I think that's how you pronounce his name. I can't remember. They pronounce it 8 different ways. I think it's Maheshate, actually. This was a crazy fight while it lasted. Borshchev getting the second round KO. It was a right hook, brutally finished him, and then ground and pound strikes. First round was competitive. I thought Borshchev was getting the better of Maheshate, landing good kicks, landing good punches, got poked in the eye. It looked like his eye was damaged significantly, and he continued to fight. It looked like it was bleeding, but apparently it was the actual eyelid that was bleeding. And I thought, is this going to affect the outcome of the fight? He started eating some shots. Maheshate was going after him the second. The ref told him to fight again. He was just going right after that side, throwing the right hand. But Borshchev hurt him in the first round, was clipping him up in the first round. Second round, outstriking him again, lands a nasty right hook, drops him badly, finishes him with ground and pound strikes. And I knew this fight was going to be good. Borshchev has very good striking, but it's his grappling. And I think Maheshate actually shot a takedown in this fight. Didn't come close to getting it, but Maheshate is not an excellent grappler himself. He got out-grappled in his last fight against, I think it was Rafa Garcia. So Borshchev gets the second round TKO or KO. And it was a dominant win. It was really a dominant win. It was competitive in the first round, but it was clear from the jump that Borshchev was landing the bigger shots. He was mixing in the kicks well, and he was landing good punches, and he eventually found that finish in the second round. Moving on to the main card, the first main card fight was Diego Ferreira versus Michael Johnson. This is the only fight I got wrong on the card, and I picked Michael Johnson, by decision. And after that first round, I was liking that pick. Michael Johnson just landing good shots on the feet, looking fast, defending the takedowns. His hips were looking very well. Every time Diego Ferreira even thought about a takedown, Michael Johnson's hips were getting back. Second round, Michael Johnson landing the better shots, pumping the jab, beating him up on the feet. And then on an exit after a combination, Diego Ferreira lunges in with a massive right hand, lands right on the chin of Michael Johnson and sleeps him. He pulled Ducote McGee from last week, but in this case, Michael Johnson was actually out cold. He wasn't just playing dead, okay? And he was stiffened up. And it's just sad to see him from Michael Johnson. He's winning the fight. I thought he was going to win this fight via decision because I know how tough Diego Ferreira is. And I know that he's a really good fighter, but I just didn't think he'd be able to out-grapple Michael Johnson. And it was one of those scenarios where Michael Johnson thought he was out of range. It was almost a Tony Ferguson versus Michael Chandler front kick KO in a way, because it was like Michael Johnson was just at the edge of range. And he didn't expect something coming back, a massive overhand right. He thinks he's out of range. He's not defending, gets clipped right on the chin, slept out cold in the second round. It was brutal. He was stiffened up. He had no idea what happened when he came to. And Diego Ferreira needed to win. He was on a 3-fight losing streak, and he won this with his striking. He was losing on the feet, but he found that kill shot. Michael Johnson getting up there in age, but so is Diego Ferreira. He's 38 years old. He gets it done. Nasty right hand finishes off Michael Johnson. Moving up the card, Joaquin Buckley versus Andre Fialho. This was a fun fight. Second round head kick KO for Joaquin Buckley. First round, very competitive. I gave it to Joaquin Buckley. I thought he landed harder shots on the feet. Also, he had 2 takedowns where he exploded through Andre Fialho. Took him down, didn't get any control time, didn't really land any damage. But I think he also landed the harder shots on the feet. So I really gave him that first round. I thought it was a 10-9 first round. It was debatable. Fialho was landing some good shots himself. You could really tell in this fight that Fialho was the more technical striker. But Buckley, and this was exactly my pick, Buckley, with his forward pressure and with his volume, I just thought that Buckley would eventually find the chin of Fialho. And that's basically what happened here. He was kind of throwing sloppy shots. He had his chin up in the air. But Fialho, just kind of backing straight up. At some point in time, he has his chin up in the air where he's kind of trying to get out of the way. And then Buckley's throwing 3-4 punch combinations. And then in the second round, he eats a nasty head kick, goes out cold. This is the third stoppage in a row, third lost stoppage in a row for Andre Fialho. Gets slept with the head kick. Buckley goes to follow up, but he's looking at the ref. Kerry Hadley kind of puts a fingertip in front of Buckley, but doesn't actually stop it, being indecisive, scared to get in there. And Buckley throws a nasty hammer fist to just finish him off, even though he's already brutally KO'd. Then the ref pushes Buckley. Referee, you need to do your job. I'm so tired of these referees not doing their job. Dude, you should have got in there. Andre Fialho just took way unnecessary brain damage because you didn't step in, because you were too much. You were too busy just barely getting in, but you were indecisive and you didn't want to touch Buckley. And then you shoved Buckley. He shoved Buckley aggressively and yelled at him for throwing the hammer fist. Dude, you should have stopped the fight. If anybody should be getting shoved, it should be you. Someone should be putting Kerry Hadley in a Boston Crab. That's how bad this stoppage was. Fialho didn't need to eat that extra shot. It was only one shot. But, dude, Fialho's already taken so much damage. And then he had to take that after a head kick KO that already finished him off. His head snapped back across the canvas. It was really sad. It really pissed me off. Go back and watch my live stream. You can see how mad I was. Totally unnecessary. But Buckley makes a welterweight debut and he gets a finish in the second round. Didn't look particularly great doing it. I know that sounds crazy, but he's going to get exposed by any elite striker because he just moves forward, throws sloppy combinations, and he leaves himself very susceptible to a counter. And Andre Fialho landed some good shots in this fight. And, I just think, you get up towards the top of the weight class or even, towards the top 15 at all. Not even in the top 15. Kevin Holland KO'd him at middleweight before. So Buckley still has that crazy power. Gets the KO here, but I don't know how far he can go at welterweight. Moving up the card, Godinez versus Emily Ducote. You have Godinez winning via unanimous decision. This wasn't a boring fight, wasn't a fun fight. You basically had Godinez moving forward, landing good combinations, landing heavy shots, and won the first round that way, landed the better strikes. Looked like she was absolutely starting to take over. At one point, I thought she might finish her. Second round, a little bit more competitive. I still thought that Godinez won that round. Landing better shots, just clipping her on the chin. But it seemed like she was starting to take her foot off the gas. And she took this fight on short notice. It was at a catch weight. And I was thinking, oh no, is she going to end up losing this fight because her stamina is starting to wane? And then towards the end of the second round, it was almost like she was starting to, wane even more and not throwing a whole lot of shots. And I think there were some people saying, I think even the commentary team might have said Ducote won the second round. I didn't see that at all. I think this was the round that I said Ducote won like 1 minute of the round, and it was one of the last 2 minutes of the round, and they were acting like she won the round. She got outstruck in the second round. And then in the third round, I guess Godinez, she knew this is the last 5 minutes, so I can let it all out right now, and she was landing good combinations again. Ducote was eating shots and moving forward and trying to land some shots of her own. It was whoever was moving forward was winning the fight for the most part, but Godinez, with her pressure, with her heavy combinations, she was winning this fight and busting her up. And I think she even mixed in a takedown at one point in this fight. She gets the decision win. I thought it should have been a 30-27. Moving up the card, Anthony Hernandez versus Edmen Shahbazyan. Third round TKO for Anthony Hernandez. And the commentary team was way off on this fight as well because they act like Shahbazyan was starching Anthony Hernandez in the first round. Edmen Shahbazyan landed a couple good shots in the first round, but it didn't hurt him, didn't rock him by any means. And then the end of the first round was Anthony Hernandez taking Shahbazyan down and beating him up. And I thought, okay, it's debatable, but I thought Anthony Hernandez won the first round. I thought he did enough damage on the ground. He landed some shots on the feet of his own. And I just thought, okay, Hernandez took that 10-9. It was a close round, though, because of the early combinations that Edmen Shahbazyan won. You would have thought, according to the commentary team, which also influenced a lot of MMA fans online, you would have thought Edmen Shahbazyan almost finished him in the first round, the way they were acting. Anthony Hernandez wins the first round with his ground strikes, with his takedown, with his grappling. Second round Shahbazyan's looking tired, starts putting it on Shahbazyan, gets him down, beats him up, starts looking for guillotines, starts looking for rear naked chokes, landing nasty elbows, just destroying him on the ground. And there was a couple times where it was like Herb Dean's looking at it close, and then there was almost a guillotine, and at one point it looked like Edmen Shahbazyan was going to tap from submission, and I had second round submission in this fight for Anthony Hernandez. But Shahbazyan, credit to his toughness, which I actually think, isn't a good thing for a 25-year-old Edmen Shahbazyan who's taking a lot of damage now. He survives the second round. Third round, Herb Dean tells him in between rounds, according to the commentary, look, you got to show me something in these positions. He ends up getting taken down again. He ends up getting full mounted again. He ends up giving up his back again. And then Hernandez just throwing nasty ground and pound over and over and over again. Big elbows. Edmen Shahbazyan's bloodied and battered. And finally, the referee steps in. Third round TKO win for Anthony Hernandez. I think Edmen Shahbazyan's time is done. I think the UFC pushed him too soon. He's taken a lot of damage. At 25 years old, he's basically 55 in fight years. And this was a lot of damage to take. Honestly, could have been stopped sooner. I wish he would have gave up his neck. He took a lot of brain damage in this fight. But Anthony Hernandez, even though I'm not super high on Edmen Shahbazyan, Anthony Hernandez looked very good. He looked super gritty. This fight played out almost exactly how I thought it would. Outside of, I thought he would find the sub in that second or third round. Didn't find the sub. But he probably could have in the third round. Edmen Shahbazyan was completely out of it. But then he just said, I'm going to keep punching. I'm going to keep elbowing. And I'm going to get this finish. I want to see him get a ranked opponent next. I would love to see him against like an Andre Muniz, who I believe has a fight. I'd love to see him against a Brendan Allen. Hot take maybe, and someone said this in the live stream as well. I think Anthony Hernandez beats Dricus du Plessis. Let me know in the comments if you think that as well. I think Anthony Hernandez is a very good fighter. Great jiu-jitsu, great submission skills. I'm wondering if he could be at welterweight instead, because he's not like particularly jacked for middleweight. But to go out there and now, get another win, a gritty win, a dominant win against Edmen Shahbazyan and finish him in the way he did, I want to see a big step up in competition for Anthony Hernandez next. Solid win, third round TKO for Anthony Hernandez. Moving on to the main event, Mackenzie Dern versus Angela Hill. I thought Dern would find a sub, and it looked like it was going to be right. I picked second round sub. It looked like Mackenzie Dern was going to get the first round sub. Was landing big shots on the feet against Angela Hill. I think she shot one takedown. Or no, she had a hip toss in the first round. Got reversed. They get back to their feet. And Mackenzie Dern lands some nasty combinations. Drops Angela Hill. Ends up on the ground with her. Beating her up on the ground. And then at the tail end of the first round, almost finds an armbar. But Angela Hill defends well. Second round, a little bit lackluster. I don't think Mackenzie Dern got a takedown the second round. A lot of clinch work from Angela Hill. I thought, oh my God, is Mackenzie Dern going to gas here? She doesn't gas. Third round, massive knee for Mackenzie Dern lands. It looks like Angela Hill's out on her feet. But instead of looking for the finish with the striking, Mackenzie Dern immediately into a hip toss. Gets her down, beats her up in the third round. Almost finds an armbar there towards the tail end of the third round as well. And then in the fourth round, it's just Angela Hill trying to clinch up. When they break, she eats big shots. Then eventually there's a takedown. She gets control on the ground. She gets full mounted on the ground. She gets dominated. Then it's like Mackenzie Dern gets into a position where she's, almost halfway looking for an armbar, but then landing hammer fist on the face. Fourth round, not as crazy, but Mackenzie Dern clearly wins the fourth round. And then the fifth round, dominates her again. Almost finds a finish towards the end of the fifth round. Looking for an armbar at the end of the fifth round. Mackenzie Dern dominated Angela Hill. I think there was multiple 10-8 rounds on multiple judges' scorecards. And what impressed me most in this fight was Mackenzie Dern's cardio. Because I really thought she was going to gas. She wasn't scheduled for a 5-round fight. This fight was supposed to be last week. It was supposed to be 3 rounds. She took a 5-round fight on short notice against Angela Hill and went crazy in every single round. I thought she would find the finish. She didn't find the finish. But she never relented. And, to have that type of cardio is massive. When you're competing at the highest level, or supposed to be competing at the highest level, which we're going to talk about in a second, to have that level of cardio is amazing. I think her jiu-jitsu is a little bit overrated. I know Angela Hill's not easy to submit. I just feel like we talk about Mackenzie Dern, people almost act like she's a Damian Maia of the women's division, women's strawweight division. And she's just not that. I thought she did a lot of damage. She just couldn't submit her. She couldn't find the submission. Angela Hill now almost has as many losses as she has wins. She has more losses than how old I am. That's a bit of an exaggeration, but you get my point. And Angela Hill really had nothing in this fight. She had nothing to offer. She clinched up. She landed some knees in the clinch. She had toughness, but this is a little bit of a statement, a telling statement. When the commentators and the UFC, Dana White, are talking about how tough you are, that means that's key word for you got your ass whooped. And you didn't get finished when you're talking about how tough you are. And that's what people are going to talk about. I also think people are going to talk about Mackenzie Dern like she's a title challenger. And I know the 115-pound division isn't like a men's bantamweight or a men's lightweight division, But I don't think this performance makes Mackenzie Dern a title challenger by any means. The striking was improved, but do you know what Weili Zhang would do to that chin as she's rushing in? Do you know what she would do? Oh my, she would literally brutalize Mackenzie Dern. You know what Yan Xiaonan would do to Mackenzie Dern? I think they fought before. You know what she would do to her in a rematch? She would chin her badly. But Mackenzie Dern, relentless, good jiu-jitsu, good ground and pound. And I mean, she has the killer instinct. She's looking for the kill constantly on the ground. Angela Hill, too tough for her own good. Got beat up badly for her 17th loss. It's actually her 13th loss. But, you know, I don't know. I don't know what Angela Hill does from here. I mean, she got her ass whooped by Mackenzie Dern bad, you know, and I don't really want to see her lose over and over and over again. And I definitely don't want to see her in a main event ever again, you know. I feel bad, you know, it's embarrassing that Joe Martinez had to say, make some noise if you were ready for a Mackenzie Dern Angela Hill main event. But I will say this card, for being as lackluster as it was on paper, this card was a good card, you know, and it didn't really have ramifications for a lot of divisions, which is what I look for and what I'm most excited for. It didn't have a whole lot of elite of the elite MMA. It basically had none of that, but it was still a fun card. You know, this was one of those cards that, you know, it's not the greatest on paper, but it exceeds expectations in terms of excitement level. So I will say that I enjoyed the card. I had fun. I will say I think Mackenzie Dern versus Angela Hill was a better main event than the original main event, which was Raquel Pennington versus Irene Aldana. That was a horrible main event. I think this was a better main event choice. And, you know, it was exciting. It was exciting. Mackenzie Dern went out there, was constantly pressuring, looking for big shots. Angela Hill had no striking in this fight. She had no grappling in this fight. Basically, all she had was a hug. That's all she had. And she also cheated a lot in this fight as well. Toes in the fence, constantly interlocking in the fence. Jason Herzog constantly yelling at her, toes interlocked in the fence, because she was using it to scramble out of certain jiu-jitsu positions, and it was annoying me the whole fight. I hate this. Why aren't we taking points from fighters for blatant cheating over and over and over again? When you have to yell at them 3, 4, 5 times for a rule they know is illegal, they're breaking the rule intentionally, why are we not taking points? So that kind of annoyed me. But overall, enjoyed the card. I haven't been the great on picks, on full card picks for the last like 3 weeks. I've been kind of down on picks. 11 out of 12, I'm happy with that. I only got Michael Johnson wrong, and he was winning the fight. It's unfortunate. I would have loved to have my first sweep. This would have been the first card sweep since I started my YouTube channel 2 years ago. But unfortunately, it was not meant to be. But let me know what you guys think about this card down in the comments. What did you think of all the performances? Don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed these videos. Let me know. Do you want to see me do more full card recaps in the future? I would love to know. Let me know down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.